Oops. Sorry about that. This is Hypergon, your Chapter the Cap, back again for another video. As you can see, I was just listening to some music, and honestly, can you really blame me? Music's pretty awesome. It's one of the things that really binds people together. It's hard to find someone who doesn't like music. Maybe not the same kind you do, but hey, everyone has their own taste. And ironically enough, even Yu-Gi-Oh! Has managed to get some music that can captivate its audiences. And that's what we're here for today. It's counting down the top 10 best songs ever produced by Yu-Gi-Oh! The anime. Now, this is going to be a bit different from my usual top 10, since there are 5 different anime intros, and where I'm going to be counting down are the outros and intros, not the in-series music, but what they start and end each episode with for the credits. So, for that reason, I've decided to do things slightly differently, and I'm going to do one intro for each series, and one outro for each series. So it's technically not like the top 10 best ever, as opposed to the best of each. And because of that, I'm not going to be going in any particular order, so even though I'm technically going to be listing them off, it's not like, you know, the last one is my least favorite and the first one is my top favorite. It's just the way I decided to do it for this one. So I'm going to start off with, as any anime would tell you, the intro. Why? Well, it makes good sense to start with the intro. The anime does it, so will I. Which means I'm going to be ending with the outros, and I'm going to be going in order of each anime series. So, first one's going to be the original, then GX, 5Ds, EXO, and Arc 5. So again, it will have no So without any further ado, let's get started. So for being completely honest here, I really have no idea what the name of this one is, but I think we all know what it is. The original intro for the dub, the one that they use for the entirety of it, the one that any kid in America growing up watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Knows by heart. Not that there's any words to it, but you get the idea. You know the one that I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I don't actually have the music to play in the background. I know you're going to say, oh, well, you have it for the, you know, counters on each, well, it's technicality. But, yeah, this is the one I decided to go with just because it's so nostalgic for it, and just, I don't know what else to say. It's a cool song. It's good enough for my countdowns, and good enough for me. It's good enough for you, darn it, and moving on, GX. So, unfortunately, as is inherently going to be the case, a grand majority of these are actually going to be the sub-intros and outros, since the dub only really used one per, so unfortunately the last one's really the only dub entry. The rest of these are going to be subbed, sorry for those of you who didn't see them. But this one I would definitely recommend you guys check out if you haven't seen it. This one is Precious Time Glory Days, and is the intro to the undubbed Season 4, otherwise known as the Darkness arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. This one for me was always just really cool because it showed Jaden in a light that didn't seem quite as silly and goofy as is his normal character. It showed him more in the serious light, which is really what he's going through in this, which for the Darkness arc is more authentic to what they were aiming with. The first 3 seasons before that, with a minor exception being in the 3rd season with the Yubel arc, Jaden was always more laid back, but with this one, he's kind of having to deal with what he had to do in the Yubel arc, so he's more serious, and this one kind of shows it. Plus, the Darkness arc was honestly just really cool, so seeing this one always got me hyped up for what was going to happen. It just see it if you haven't already. Be sure to listen to the song. It is amazing. Just true wonder and amazement. You will enjoy it. Let's move on to 5Ds now, shall we? Next up, we have my personal favorite amongst the 5D's intros, again subbed, Last Train. Now, this one is really upbeat, and it, again, does a very good job of getting you hyped up for the episode to come. Plus, it also featured my personal favorite installment within the 5D's anime, which was the Dark Signers. I always just thought it was better than Mechlord Emperors, and this one for me really did kind of build up the hype of the Dark Signers. So it was really cool just seeing them like that. Don't really have much to say about it. It's just really cool. Unfortunately, that's only so much I can do about a song. You really do just have to check these out for yourself. I'm just giving you the recommendations. Sorry for being lazy, but that's just how I am. Gonna have to deal with it. Alright. Next. Best of Zexal. So despite the whining I just did, ironically for this one, I actually have two best, because I just couldn't decide on which one I liked more. It's kind of funny that a series that's so badly regarded as just the worst installment in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series ever would ironically have really good intros. I mean, none of the others have too. This is the only one I'm going to cheat on. And those two are known as Braving and Dualism of Mirrors. Now, Braving is more of a laid-back one, which is kind of odd because I tend not to enjoy those as much. I'm not saying it's not upbeat and hype-inducing at times, but for the most part, it's a fairly laid-back song, and I normally hate ones like that. But in this case, it just worked. And then Dualism of Mirrors is the more hyped-up one, and they're for different aspects of it. The Braving is actually for the first one where Yuma is facing off against Heartland in that big Heartland tournament thing. And then Dualism's Mirrors is when he's going up against the Barrier Emperors. And it just, both do a good job of setting up the premise for it. The Heartland tournament is a little bit more laid back. The big end-all be-all plot doesn't technically reveal itself until a little bit later on in that. As opposed to Dualism of Mirrors, which is kind of throwing everything at you right away. So they both do an excellent job of setting up the environment that they're going to be showing you. So kudos to you, Zexal, for having the worst anime. You actually do have some pretty solid intros, and I would recommend you guys check them out. Now let's go ahead and move on to my favorite for Arc 5, shall we? So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this one was actually surprisingly difficult. I thought this was going to be the easiest one. I mean, as of right now, there's only 3 intros to pick from, and 3 outros later, but we'll get to that, in the second half of the video. So, I was expecting just, alright, whatever, it's one of the 3 will have to be fine, but the irony is they're all pretty good. I actually had a very tough time deciding between the ones I liked, because the first one to me was always really cool. It was more, I don't want to say upbeat again, because that's not the way I mean it, but more like lax, more laid back, carefree in nature. Like that. It felt more like it was a show about a game as opposed to like the end-all be-all of the world. But then the second one was, again, a little bit less so. It was taking it a little bit more seriously. And then we hit Unleash, my choice for the favorite and the current one that they are using. So this is the 3rd intro they're currently on. That's the one that I'm choosing. And my reason for it, I hate to be so predictable, but it is ironically because it is the most upbeat and hype-inducing one. I am sadly a creature of habit, and it is very difficult for me to break said habits. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's still really, really cool. And in the most recent episode that they just did, so good thing I'm doing this when I am now, they actually changed it slightly. So in each of the subsequent intros, they've always had this thing where they talk about action duels and how it's the newest, biggest thing. And that's been the beginning of every single episode. It doesn't matter which intro they were on, they always did that before the intro. But they changed it. Now, instead of action duels, since they're currently taking place... hold on, let me... Spoiler alert before you go any further. You might want to skip ahead a couple of seconds on this one. I do apologize for that. But anyway, they are currently in the Synchro Dimension, so what they have decided to do is to go with writing duels instead. And so they're showing writing duels. And me being a big fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, that's huge for me. That's just awesome. But, yeah, so, like, that just, to me, was really cool that they did. And it also has, this is kind of cheating because it's supposed to be the best songs, but I'm technically going with the animations as well for this. They also, this is also this intro that showed that Jack Atlas had a chance to be in it. Not only had a chance, but again, as of the newest one showed, and this one I don't feel spoilers, so get over it, they showed Jack and Crow completely on, they didn't, like, just show his outline like they did originally. No, they just straight showed both of them now, so they're more or less confirmed to be in the anime at some point. They haven't yet, but I can tell it's going to be awesome when they are, because those two are just amazing characters. Not my first choices for who I would like to see from 5Ds, but hey, I'll take what I can get. If I can see Red Nova Dragon and some Blackwing action again, I am not going to complain. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. Now we're going to be moving on to the second half of the list, which is going to consist of the outros. We're going to be starting back over with the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series and then working our way back up to Arc 5 again. So, let's get started on that part now, shall we? Okay, now, technically, I could have just pulled a really cheap stunt and picked the dub outro for this as well, because it was also really cool. Here's why I didn't. It is literally the same thing as the intro, but shorter. For that reason, the dub outro is forbidden from this one. So, I had to go with one of the subs for this. And I'm not gonna lie, most of the outros from the original were less than impressive, so this was actually probably one of the tougher choices I had to make. And the one that I went with is called Friendship. It's just showing a picture of Yugi, Joey, Taya, and Tristan just, goofing off, having fun as friends. And it kind of backs out of it and then shows all the characters while also the credits roll. And then in the end, they all magically pop up out of nowhere and assume the same pose. It's a cute little thing, but that kind of had a calming nature to it, and it really did remind you that despite all this is still a show about just friends having fun. I mean, yeah, there's the whole end of the world thing going on, but at the core of it, if you will, its central message was always about sticking close to your friends, as evidenced by, well, everything ever from the show, and how apparently the Pharaoh draws his power from his friends, and not the Millennium items. I don't know. But regardless, it was still kind of just a nice little thing. It was a bit of a treat for me to find, actually. I didn't think I would enjoy that as much as I did, but it was pleasant, so I would check it out if I were you guys. I'm not recommending it nearly as much as I am any of the intros, but it's good. It's watchable. GX. So for my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! GX outro, I have Bite the Lung. Now, very much in contrast to Friendship, which I just did for the original, this one is one of the more upbeat ones. What can I say? I'm a sucker for what I like. Yeah, it's just another upbeat one. Ironically, it kind of rehypes you even after it's over, but I guess that kind of leaves you in anticipation for what's coming next. So, in this one, since the series is already over, it kind of makes marathoning a bit easier during this part. And when it was still coming out for all the good little Japanese boys and girls, it made them interested in what was going to be happening next week. So, I mean, for that, it's just a good song. Check it out if you get the chance to. Not really a whole lot I can say on this one. So, moving on to 5D's outro, I guess. So for 5Ds, I have chosen Cross Game as my favorite outro. Again, another song from the Darksiders arc. Again, what can I say? I'm kind of a victim of my own habits. But it's another one that's just really nice and upbeat, and as it goes along, it kind of shows all the characters just doing what they do. Has some very, very nice static shots in it, and overall it's just a really, really cool song. Again, it gets you hyped up for what's to come next, so I guess I prefer those as opposed to the mellow out ones, but they do still have their own unique purpose, I guess. It's just what I prefer. Again, this is my list, my opinion, so it's what you guys click to see. Now we're going to go on to Zexal's outro. Who knows, maybe it's as good as the intros. I hope so. Okay, so unfortunately, unlike the intros, the outros were infinitely more difficult to pick from Zexal. This is not really what I would call my favorite so much as it is the best of them. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm too terribly crazy about it. It's not a bad one per se. It's Longing Frieza, I guess is how you Frisia. I don't know how you pronounce it. You saw how it was spelled. And I don't know, it's just okay, I guess. It's most of the outros are actually pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty hard to watch. But this one was, I'm going to say, watchable. I don't really have too much to say on this one. I didn't really care for it. I just needed an outro for Zexal for this list, so yeah. It pretty much got on by process of elimination as opposed to actually standing out to me, so take that for what you will. Let's move on to the final entry on this, the Arc 5 outro. This one. This is the reason I wanted to make this video. All of the others I had to go back and re-listen, well, except for the first one. I had to go back and re-listen to in order to even remember half of them existed. This outro right here was the entire premise of this video. This is what sparked the idea. Future Fighter, the second outro to Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. Now, I know I said that this list is in no particular order, but ironically, this probably would be my #1 favorite out of all of them. Out of everything I listed, and even some that I had to leave off by just the rules of my own list, this is my favorite out of all of them. So I guess it's #1 technically. Whatever. But for me, it's just such a cool song. It really does go through every aspect of the show up until that point. It has, you know, Yuya trying to become better. It has Yuzu kind of conflicted over the existence of Yuya and Yuto, both of which she seems to have at least some degree of feeling for. And just the rivalry between Kurosaki and Sora, or for those of you who are watching it dubbed, apparently Kurosaki has a different name. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I don't care for it. Kurosaki all the way. But just seeing that, even before we knew... Oh, right, sorry, spoilers. Before we knew Sora was bad, it was kind of cool just to see that, because, you know, there was some tension between them, and we didn't know what it was. But after we found out, it just became even cooler. It's like, oh my god, they're actually just bringing attention to that. And it was really, really cool. I looked forward to the ending of each episode just so I could see that. More than I could see for what was to come next. I wanted to see Future Fighter. It's just such an amazing song for me. I could go on all day about it, but really, I can't do it justice. You guys need to go see it. If you have not yet seen or heard Future Fighter, it is truly amazing. It is just... it's wonderful. But that's all I got for you guys in terms of the actual video today. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did I do a good job with this? Are my songs on par? Or did I completely miss the mark? What are your favorite songs from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime? Be sure to let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you haven't seen my 400 subscriber announcement, go do that. And be sure to help me get to 500 subscribers so I can actually start that. And until next time, peace.